Impeachment is one more tool in the arsenal of Democrat 2020 campaigns. They used it in the 2018 campaigns. They won back the House of Representatives, largely because of the scandals they attributed to Donald Trump but couldn't prove. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is Constitution Corner. And remember what we like to do here on Constitution Corner is we like to take a constitutional issue and not necessarily go back to the actual chapter and verse and try to explain the chapter and verse in its context. We like to try to give you a sense of how modern-day situations can be always clarified and almost always resolved by defaulting to actually what the Constitution says. And so we see what's going on now with impeachment. Ever since Donald Trump was a serious candidate, once they realized that Donald Trump, the progressives, was going to be the Republican nominee, almost right away they started impeaching him. In the off chance he might have won the election against Hillary Clinton, they were already trying to get their ducks in a row. We know about all the deep state covert business that was going on, all of the things that really do need to be investigated about how CIA, how the FBI, how these overseas files, how these foreign agents created dossiers on Donald Trump, all the kind of scandalous things that were said about him. It really is interesting that those things are actually, when you stop and think about it, absolute threats to our constitutional order. You have an American covert operation, let's call it deep state covert operation, that even before he was president was colluding with foreign governments, the Steele document, to put together dossiers, to provide oppositional research for the Hillary Clinton campaign. You had major institutions like the FBI who were pulling for, if not actually spying for her and providing her with information. All of this, there's real credible reasons to suspect that this happened. And we know some of it actually did happen. And ironically, what we're not getting is really serious investigations into those constitutional violations. On the other hand, we have elected officials all across the country, from the president on down, who have to swear an oath to protect and defend the Constitution when they take federal office. And what's interesting things about this is, what does that mean? What does it mean that the oath you take is to the Constitution and to the right defense of it? Well, impeachment is a very serious issue, and there have to be very specific levels of malfeasance or high crimes and misdemeanors that were met. The fact that the Democrats investigating this, pushing for this impeachment narrative after 2.5 years of trying to impeach him theoretically over Russiagate, that didn't work. All sorts of other ways they tried to come after Donald Trump didn't work. Now they've seized on this overblown situation in the Ukraine. And the very fact that they're conducting, I believe that they're conducting their investigation, they're conducting their impeachment hearings, their discussions, their strategizing, their parsing of the evidence, they're talking to witnesses, all behind closed doors. That this is not open to the media. It's not open to the American people. It's not even, in many instances, open to the Republican Party, to Republican senators or Republican congressmen who are being shielded from this, to shield the media from this. There's a significant number of constitutional violations, I think you can cite, simply in pointing to what they're doing here. Impeachment now has become an arm of the Democrat-controlled Congress. It's not a congressional issue to the degree that the entire Congress is not debating this, that the entire Congress, Republicans and Democrats, are seeing the same evidence or hearing the same witnesses. This has become a campaign tool, impeachment, of the Democrat Party, and it's been that way now for going on 3+ years. The idea that this threat, the idea of impeachment, this is an impeachment process in search of evidence. And they've looked up and down. They're colluding now with foreign governments. They are trying to pressure foreign governments to give them the information they need to prove that Donald Trump pressured foreign governments. The whole thing is really unseemly and very questionably constitutional. And so what we see here is how do great republics fall? Well, the first thing that has to happen, particularly for a constitutional republic, is there have to be rogue operatives from within the government, the very same people who have promised and vowed and swore to defend the constitutional order and the constitutional structure, who are wrenching it for their own purposes. To that degree, we see where we are now. Impeachment is one more tool in the arsenal of Democrat 2020 campaigns. They used it in the 2018 campaigns. They won back the House of Representatives, largely because of the scandals they attributed to Donald Trump but couldn't prove. My gut tells me they're not going to be able to prove this either. But now they're talking about extending this unconstitutional behind closed doors investigation into the Christmas holidays. In other words, they're going to bleed this as long as they can. What they really want to do is discourage voters from voting for him. They know they can't impeach him. And that is using a constitutional process for shockingly unconstitutional ways that, when we stop and think about it, not only undermine the constitutional order, but threaten a brand new day in America, a day where partisan politics, George Washington warned us about them, where partisan party politics overwrites the rules and responsibilities given to us in our Constitution, that wonderful document. So I say it again. It's time to honor, not ignore the Constitution. And how do you do that? By understanding it and living it. You can go to thenewamerican.com and jbs.org for more info and for more shows.